When I tell you that Letecia's former neighbor needs to be on the FBI payroll, I am not lying. She got the tea and then she spilled it on the stand, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. That's the sofa behind me with our trusty sidekick, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane, and my name is Paul. Today we're continuing our coverage with the Letecia Stauch trial. She is currently on trial right now for allegedly taking the life of her stepson, Gannon. Now, she is trying to say that she did this because of, she's pleading out to insanity, basically, saying not guilty by insanity, and that is what's going on. So the context of this video is this. A former neighbor, or maybe not even directly a neighbor, but somebody from her neighborhood is on the witness stand, and she is being questioned. Now, what she is being questioned about is her interactions with Letecia. Essentially what happened is, you know how neighborhoods or people or in whatever communities will have like Facebook posts of, hey, I need this or that, and you can do porch drop-off, stuff like that. Okay, so that's what took place. And she met Letecia through this. So she's giving her experience, but obviously it doesn't go well in the beginning. When everything pops off with the Gannon situation, Letecia ends up blocking her, and so she makes up a fake profile, befriends Letecia, and gets all this information from Letecia. It is insane the amount of intel this woman was able to get from her. I mean, y'all, I am talking next level. So what I want to do is talk about it in that context through that lens. And the way we'll do the video is I'll put clips up and we'll use those as talking points and go from there. So let's go ahead and start with the first clip.
And while you were living in that neighborhood, did you have an occasion to meet someone named Letecia Stauch?
I did.
And tell the jury about how you met her.
So I think the first time I had posted a thing on our neighborhood page, I was looking for clothes for my niece that just moved in with us. And I had got a message from a Harley Hunt, is who I thought I was speaking to. And then they offering some free clothes for us. And when the person actually showed up to my house to drop off those clothes, it was Letecia.
Who would have ever have known at that moment in time, that fateful meeting at the porch pickup, what was about to come of all this? But honestly, thank the Lord it was this woman who ended up having this interaction because of the things that she was going to do and the information that she was going to get.
I was kind of off put first because I thought I was meeting a Harley Hunt. And it obviously wasn't, but she didn't introduce herself as to who she was. And it was just kind of weird because I didn't know her and she was kind of just talking to me about life stuff and like we had been best friends. Okay. So it was a little off-putting, but...
No, this is the kind of information and details that I find so fascinating with cases, but specifically this one, since it's what we're talking about, because I can completely see Letecia doing this, right? Listening to her recorded phone calls with Al, listening to her in the news interviews, she seems like the type person that would overshare, that would jeopardize your time, that would encroach in on your personal space and like violate your senses and your... just everything, right? You're supposed to be doing this porch pickup, but first of all, she's using her daughter's account. She was probably paranoid about being found out by the government and stuff like that, or you know what I mean? I can see her like going down that rabbit hole. So she's using her daughter's account, and then she shows up and like complains about her home life. Just something so bizarre like that. Almost like she probably was doing that originally just to get the chance to talk to somebody and complain.
How did you learn that Gannon Stauch, her stepson, went missing?
There was a post on one of those neighborhood pages saying that, I don't remember exactly what it said. It's been a long time. I just remember there was a post that went up saying that her son or stepson didn't return home from a friend's house and basically asking for help if anybody had seen him or could help find him.
I wanted to include that clip so that we can kind of all be on the same page if you're new to this case, that type thing, because this was where this started to kick off. You're hearing it from inside like the neighborhood bubble, like ground zero, if you will, of Letecia behind the scenes, basically being like, okay, I've got to come up with a story, I've got to cook it up, and this woman is reporting live from the bubble, right? As to how that played out. So this is what took place. He's gone missing. A post goes out. Now, also keep in mind as we're listening to these clips, and I'm not sure if I have ones of this particular young lady crying, but listen to her talk about the things they do. We all went out. We stayed out all night. You know, she's upset, this, that, and the other. These are 100% things that Letecia does not do.
When you're in the area of 6627 Mandan Drive, did you stop by and see Miss Stalk, or was Miss Stalk out searching in that area, or do you remember?
I didn't stop by her house. I thought it was kind of weird because we're all out here looking, and it was very obvious that she was at her house and not out here looking.
Why was that obvious?
I'm trying to remember exactly how. I mean, there was a lot of people that were going up to her house, and she was opening the door, and you could just tell lights were on. I mean, plus I met a majority of everybody that was out there, and none of them were her.
And obviously you had met her before, and so did you tie it together that Gannon Stalk was living in the same house with Letecia Stalk?
Yeah, as soon as the post went up on the neighborhood page, I recognized her right away.
Yikes, and that's what I'm talking about right there. We see it all the time, right? If you followed Trezell and Jacqueline West, same thing, right? And they always have an excuse why they can't be out looking. You know what I'm saying? There's always some excuse. You know, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this. The cop said not to, whatever. Okay, we see how this ends. But again, imagine being the neighbors and doing this and being like, why isn't she out here? First major red flag. This lady knew. She knew, right? Right from the get-go, okay? Like red flags were going off like something's not right because she already met Letecia. And what I also found interesting about her testimony is just right from the get-go, from what would be a normal interaction, a porch pickup, it was like, something's off.
Did you ever talk to her about why she blocked you or anything like that?
Well, she blocked me, so I couldn't. I know my husband sent her a message saying, you know, I don't understand why you blocked my wife. We're just trying to help you. Is there something you have against her? Like, what's going on? But we never got a response.
Now that part again, we saw this whole meltdown, and if you didn't, then we'll talk about it momentarily. But when this first started going off, and she'll talk about this here in a second too, and Letecia was like doing her PR campaign, I guess, and doing the interviews on the news and that kind of a thing. It was so big for her to prove herself right, for people to believe her. The same thing we saw and witnessed in the testimony between her and Al on the phone. I did a video on that with the highlights of that as well. But if you watch, then you know what I'm talking about. And so listening to her talk about this, again, it's just all reiterating these behaviors that we saw. But again, from the very beginning, this stuff started going on, and it was huge red flags, but it literally set a fire under Letecia's butt that only she didn't seem to grasp. That was like a major warning sign to a lot of people.
The first thing that stood out to me, I think, with that interview is she didn't face the camera. And then there was a lot of, in my opinion, it sounded like her speaking in past tense when she would mention Gannon. But I also thought it was really weird that a majority of that newscast was her worrying about what people thought about her instead of worrying about where Gannon was.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's been her MO this whole time. She has been more concerned about her public image, about being perceived as a particular type person that I guess wouldn't do these type things, even though she did them. It's almost like there's a disconnect where she just is able to compartmentalize that and say, no, I didn't do it. I don't know what goes on in her head, right? I don't really want to know. But it was so concerning, especially to someone like her. Everybody saw this, that she was way more concerned about that than her missing son. It was an afterthought. But of course, at this point, we all know she knew he wasn't coming back. She knew he wasn't really missing. She knew exactly what happened to Gannon.
Did you get a response?
No, not initially.
When you say not initially, does that mean you eventually got a response?
Yes, I ended up creating a fake Facebook page. And
talk about that. Why did you do that?
I wanted to see if I could get her to respond to me. and I knew she wouldn't on my original page.
And why did you want her to respond to you?
I felt like the conversation that we had on my front porch the first time that I met her, I kind of could figure out ways to get her to communicate with me based off of her, like the kind of things that she wanted to talk about.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about right there. So here she's explaining where she made her fake profile, reached out to her, didn't get a response, but then eventually Letecia responds, and you hear the attorney, he's framing this out, and okay, well, why'd you do that? And throughout the testimony, he'll do this. And he'll be like, well, why did you do this? Because some of it will sound, if you were just listening to this and didn't know the context, like, oh my gosh, what kind of conversation is this? But she's doing this to extract information. She knew the buttons to push with Letecia because she basically wears them on her shoulder, right? And so she was pushing those buttons because there was that little voice inside that said, this story, this woman, this scenario, something's not right with it, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
She had asked me to download a texting app on my phone so that we could talk more privately.
Yeah, that's not suspicious. Can you imagine the feeling in her stomach when that happened of, well, let's talk on this private app and blah, 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 blah. And again, look at how gullible Letecia was. Why would you even be willing to have that conversation with someone? That's how strong her need was to be told the things she wanted to hear, to get validation, but also to find people to manipulate to help her get out of it.
And did you provide your phone to law enforcement so they can take screenshots of this text messages that you're having?
I did. They took it for several weeks.
Now, I love the fact that she's like, yep, gave him the phone, took it for several weeks. Here's all the screenshots. Do with it what you will. That's what happens when somebody wants to help law enforcement, not what Letecia did.
The top of the text says Barbie Girl. You know who Barbie Girl is?
It was Letecia.
And did you know that was her name through the Facebook messaging before you started this text app?
I didn't know that she didn't tell me the name, but it was the phone number.
And it says Wednesday at 9:59. Is that approximately when this all started?
Yes.
And that would have been February 19th?
Yes.
So when it says to verify it's you, what was your real first name, LOL? Is that Miss Stout talking?
Yes, sir.
And prior to getting this string of messages, were you certain that was Miss Stout who you were talking to?
I mean, this is some super secret FBI stuff right here. And the fact that Letecia called herself Barbie Girl. Can't roll my eyes hard enough.
Someone was in the home when we got back. I gave this to police at my initial interview, but I thought he was being defiant and just going against his dad's wishes, leaving. I blacked out.
Now, here's the beginning of all the different stories that she's going to tell. Again, she seemed to be just telling whoever would listen to these type things, which is another thing that just kind of, well, I shouldn't say it surprises me at this point. I mean, it still does surprise me, right? It never will not surprise me the levels that this woman went to. But the fact that she's telling this to not virtually, a stranger on the internet, right? And trying to prove herself to this one person, which I'm sure in her mind was just another way to manipulate.
Is this the first you had heard about someone else being in the house?
It is. As far as I remember, yes.
First you heard of her blacking out?
Yes.
So when she started hearing this information with stuff that she hadn't heard and the blacking out, I mean, this is where, and I think a lot of people felt this way too, that feeling in your stomach just starts turning more and more and more because kind of where this is headed, right? And that's the part that still just gets to me, is that Letecia was unable to see that, right? That she was so convinced of her skills to lie and manipulate or whatever she thought she was good at, that she felt that she could just present story after story after story and that people would buy it.
You didn't know what was going to come next, I take it?
I had no idea.
So what does she say next?
I am beginning to think that the guy was still in the home when police came. Either way, he popped back up with Gannon, so I'm assuming they were in the storage room. He threatened me, and I put them girls upstairs to protect them.
I mean, this is literally, if you presented this story to like a fiction writing workshop, they would be like, this is complete garbage. This is Too great for fiction. This would never happen, not even in real life. And clearly it didn't.
And you asked her who was the guy.
Yes.
How'd she respond?
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. He took a suitcase and some of our things and Gannon's things, and I was crying. Then he hit me across the head.
So is this the first you heard of a suitcase?
Very first time, yeah.
Now this part is bone chilling because as we know now, she put Gannon in a suitcase and took him. So this is the part where this whole insanity defense is absolutely not going to hold water. She was so clearly trying to cover her tracks, trying so hard, I mean, as to have a full-on conversation with a complete stranger on her telephone, talking about he took Gannon's things, he took a suitcase, he hit me over the head, I blacked out. I mean, how many different people does she tell different stories to?
And how did you respond to that? And why did you respond the way you did?
This is why the cops are being the way they are. They knew you didn't do it, and that's why they are being so quiet. I knew you were innocent. So I responded in that way because, once again, I'm trying to keep her thinking that I'm on her side.
And she lapped it up like a dog at a water bowl in midsummer. I mean, the fact that she was just eating this up, right? It just tells you all you need to know. Bless this woman's heart, because you know it was killing her to have to do this. And even then, so as she's spoon feeding this stuff to Letecia, you know it has to be even more so like this. Oh my God, like I am so BSing this woman right now, and she's just going for it. So her stomach had to be singing. Like she had to have known, like, yeah, something really, really, really bad has happened to this boy.
Not at all. I would have questioned that.
Would anybody stop that person, strange man in the neighborhood?
In a heartbeat. Our neighborhood has cameras everywhere, and you can't be a guy selling solar panels walking up to somebody's door without somebody posting, "Who's this weirdo at my door?"
I mean, that's the thing. And remember, if you look at, I don't know if they've shown it in the trial yet, the evidence, but if you've looked at the neighborhood, that kind of thing, I mean, it ain't like she lived out in the country is what I'm trying to get at. You know, Letecia would have you think that she lived on a 50-acre plot where this, you know, different men could just come and go and do all this crazy stuff. I mean, this is a certain day and age where, like the young lady said, I mean, it makes me wonder how door-to-door salesmen even operate anymore, right? And so this story that Letecia offered was so quickly just torn to shreds and didn't make any sense to anybody.
So why did you ask her if she thought Landon was involved in this?
It was made very clear, and I don't remember how, if it was social media or what it was, but that she didn't like Landon. So I think I was trying to play off of, okay, well, she doesn't like her, so if I start talking about Landon, it pulls her in more because I'm kind of siding with her.
Okay.
I mean, I want to know if this young lady has a degree in psychology, because she read Letecia like a damn book. Okay, now also think of this as well. Landon and Alan, they're sitting in the courtroom right now listening to this, right? To know that Letecia had this much hatred toward Landon is so disarming. And then to think this woman felt this way toward Landon, and yet this woman is like in a house with her son. It's so scary to think, right? And obviously we see how that ended up playing out. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
And you asked her, how did he get into the house? Did he force his way, or did he act like he was there for a reason? Do you recall asking her that?
I do, yes.
Trying to get more information?
Yes.
And how did she respond to that? Can you read that for us?
When we went in through the garage, I went into the bathroom. So either already in there or came gate. Maybe G had seen him before. That's why he kept checking the gate to make sure it was locked.
Now, if you recall in the phone calls to Al, Letecia brought up the whole thing about Gannon kept running to the gate, but of course she changed the story around. She at one point during these phone calls wasn't saying the whole thing about, this dynamic of, oh, he must have been in the house and all this kind of stuff. You know, each person got a different version of the story, and then each person got different versions of it along the way too, right? So it's interesting to compare the notes of like what she's saying in this phone call or in the text messages, and then you come over here and listen to how she told it to Al. And that's where I'm just like, you would have thought she would have at least kept some notes, burnt them later, something. But again, when you lie like this, you have to keep up with it, which she clearly didn't do.
And she says, and whatever they need, they're going to have to pay me for defamation, civil rights violations, etc. But for now, I need him home. I need my boy home.
Yes.
The nerve of her saying that for now I need my boy home. But even more than that, I'm going to sue them for civil rights violations. Knowing what she did, this is the part that flies all over me, obviously, in addition to what she did, right? But it's this whole rabbit hole she's gone down about her rights and this and that. And it's like, defamation and all this. And I'm just like, why? I mean, the level of narcissism and gaslighting in her is to such an extreme. Again, I have no idea how this woman functioned on a day-to-day basis and did basic things without just having complete meltdowns the second she walked out of her door. And she might have.
So in response to your WTF comment, she says, nope. They were it was someone you were cheating with. Dumb stuff. I'm telling you, when this is said and done, I will have a heck of a lawsuit from them. Do you recall her saying that?
I do, yes.
What does she continue on to say?
I've already been asked by some attorneys if my innocence prevails, then to be the first to see them. I even took a lie detector test. I wouldn't ask if I didn't need the help. I am trusting that you don't say anything about our convo. I am innocent. He is my son.
Again, going on and on about that, I'm going to have a lawsuit and all this. Look at how it ended up for her, right? Sitting over there with her head in her, chin in her hand over there, like a lump on a log, and her attorney over there just spinning around, just, kind of idling away, just going through the motions. I mean, there's just nothing you can say to this, right? There's literally just nothing you can say to this.
Did you get the impression that she was going to be asking you to do something at this point?
I did, yes.
What was that?
Lie for her.
And that impression would be right. And I do think that that's one thing that she did, and it's even more disgusting, is that she's looking at these people who are out there helping search for Gannon, who she knows exactly where he's at, and she's mining them, right, to find people to manipulate and try and get into her little web of lies. But she's so bad at the web of lies, I mean, she just crashes and burns right away. But again, so many people with this personality type do that. And again, thank God they do for situations like this, because it brings the truth to the surface.
I don't remember the color, but Gannon left with him in that cover, so that stuck out to you when you seen it online. Just recently, yes, he stayed in the house while they were there, but I didn't know until later. But he took suitcase with them. Beware, I saw him laid it up before he hit me in the head, because I'm sure he loaded the suitcase in the car and put Gannon in somehow.
I mean, she knows exactly how it went down. Isn't that strange? I wonder how. And again, one thing that we see with this type personality, and then specifically with Letecia, is she mixes in truth, right? She knows what she did. Now, also remember, if you listen to the testimony of the phone calls between her and Al, where she does these slip-ups, where she said the 95 thing, the Interstate 95, and he calls her out on that. And then she said the thing about in the car, and he's like, you mean the truck? And she's like, oh, yeah, the truck. I mean, she tells on herself the whole way. And so then with this, where she's basically telling on herself via a third person character, this is why it's just like, yeah, honey, you weren't ever really gonna, cut it in the whole, education type thing, were you? I don't think so.
He says, okay, I think that's best. You think you could do it? Let me know what you need. Gannon is who I want home, and they can turn their searches the right way. Then they could call me back in and take me seriously.
Yes.
Her extreme need to have everyone bow down. We were so wrong, Letecia. What can we ever do to repay you, to prove us, our sorrow to you? It's like this childhood fantasy that she never grew out of or something. It's so bizarre, but again, it's even more sickening because of the context and the lens of what we're looking at it through. She wants to have this justification, and she seems to have held on to that all through getting arrested. I would question if she still thinks that way. I think she might have finally accepted some of it simply because she is trying to say that she did this, due to insanity. You have to be willing to admit some level of guilt over that, right? This this is very different than saying not guilty, which she did for a minute. And so, you know, also while I'm thinking about it, I do question, you know, how much her attorney, you know, I think he's just kind of going through the motions, right? Like dotting the I's, crossing the T's. I have a job to do, you know, but at what point has she just like burned her bridge with him? And he's like, look, I'm just going to spit in the chair and we're just going to keep going.
You say looking for my first post now, and then how does she respond?
Okay, even if you could just call Albert and tell him first, he would keep you anonymous, except to the police. Besides, it's for Gannon. I can't stop at anything to get them to refocus and find who that was.
So what were you thinking she's asking you to do when she says, call Albert?
She wanted me, in my opinion, she wanted me to call him and tell him that I
Object to speculation again.
Yeah, sustained.
What were you thinking?
Sorry.
Okay? I don't want
Sorry.
to talk about what you thought she was thinking.
Yeah.
But what were you thinking when she says, I want you to call Albert?
I was thinking I was supposed to call Albert and tell him that I saw a man leaving the house with a suitcase and Gannon in a blanket and give a description of a man.
Okay. And do you know Albert Stout to be the same person who's seated right over here?
And there you go. There was the ask that she was going in for. Imagine the feeling this young lady had in her stomach when that happened of, oh my God, she wants me to call and lie like that. I mean, all that rigmarole to get around to Letecia being like, call and lie and say you saw this guy. And you would think at one point Letecia would have to say, I know I'm lying. And this person is saying A, B, and C, which I know isn't true. Something has to be up with this. Like, that never clicked to her. I mean, she has to be sitting over there just feeling like a complete idiot. One would think. But I don't think she has enough, like, I don't even know what the word is. If it's pride, if it's self-worth, if it's common sense, to feel any of those things. Because I would be sitting over there feeling like a total, well, let's be honest, jackass. You know, but I don't think she feels those things at all, right? I think that she would try and gaslight herself out of this. And that's one thing, again, I'll say it 100 times, that we see with these narcissistic personality types is they're never wrong. It doesn't matter, even in the face of it. They are going to lie, scheme, gaslight, whatever they have to do to get out of the moment. And clearly that's what she's done, even in the face of all of this damning evidence. So that is it. Let me know what you think of the FBI neighbor. She is not really in the FBI, but I'm just saying. I think that they need to be looking at her, okay? I think they need to give this lady a job, a pay cut, something, you know, because my gosh, her skills are next level. And I'm so happy that she did this, brought all this information forward. This comes down to, you know, being just aware of something and being willing to step in and say, you know what, this isn't right. I'm going to do what I can do to help make this right. And so my hat is off to her. If you're still watching, drop blue hearts down in the comment section for Gannon and show love for him and the family, as well as all the victims that we talk about here at the Sofa Squad. And until we gather around the Coke Zero and this other water bottle in the computer, I'll see you soon.